Kochetkov-Sukach, civic activist, and Dmytro Karp, Maydan Circle of Trust. Good afternoon, good afternoon. Today we would like to talk about 3 cases that are now under the court investigation. These are the cases that were launched before Maydan. They are non-political, they are not linked to Maydan, and quite some time has elapsed, and still there are no serious movements in this direction. The first case is the case of Bogdan Haponyuk, who died during a road accident. He was riding his motorbike on the Chervono-Zoranny Avenue. In November last year, he was killed by Audi 8 car, and there were news reports on television. And since November, we have the following situation. The investigation, in fact, has established that the person who was driving the car is the officer from the General Prosecutor's Office, Boris Ishchenko, and he has a brother who is also working for Procurator's Office for his Kiev branch. Due to this case is not passed to a court, and the victim's father sent several queries from MPs to the General Prosecutor's Office, but he hasn't got any essential answers, and the guy Mishenko is still working at the General Prosecutor's Office. No prospects for this case at the moment, and the only hope is that the new Prosecutor General, to whom we also sent a complaint, would do something in this case. The second case is the case of Alexander Popov, who is a private businessman, private entrepreneur, who was kidnapped and who was tortured in the city of Alexandria. This torture was done by citizens of the Russian Federation, Chechen by ethnic origin, 3 people. The case is under investigation since 2011. His wife was driven to suicide, and at the moment the investigation has established who commissioned this. 3 Chechens are under guard. However, they were released for some time at all, and only because of the interference of the public and mass media, they were taken into custody again, but the case is still protracting, and you just can imagine the state of the family who lost mother, and at the moment, for the 3rd year running, they are trying to prove very simple things, that they are victims of the crime and that they need protection. However, the behavior of Judge Pavlenko in this case is always in favor of people who have committed this crime. And it is still not understood for how long this case will go on. Those are very indicative cases where so-called small Ukrainians are fighting for their rights, and they do not get any support from law enforcement system, from prosecutor's office, from judges. They are writing complaints, they are knocking at all doors, but nothing is moving, and it is not understood when this will end. The third case is more famous. This is the case of Alexander Shepelev. You know that this man commissioned a killing and also to attempted killings, who took direct part in embezzlement of money from Rodovit Bank. And in this case, the case of Mr. Sheplev, there are very unexpected things happening. At the moment, he is not in custody in the investigation department. He is in the emergency medical department, and he's being diagnosed once and again. And the diagnoses are appearing very quickly, and it is not understood. Don't they see that 5 chronic diseases with a man who was born in 1970 and who was always a bon vivant and conducted a very active mode of life, and suddenly he is beset by diseases? This is a person who does not cooperate with the investigation, but does everything so that the investigation cannot move forward, while in Switzerland, in his accounts, there are money of Rodovit Bank, something like $30 million that Ukraine cannot claim back, return back. So this is a real example of amazing audacity, that the man thinks that he is absolutely impunable, and just an episode in his life that everything will be restored, and he's hiring the same lawyer who defended Mr. Lozynsky, Viktor Gritsuk, in order, we think, to help him along the same lines that they worked in Lozynskys case, to be released on the pretext of bad health and danger to his life. What has the public to do in this situation? This question, you ask this question, but you don't find the answer to it.
I will add to that. These are 3 examples of what the previous regime was doing, but today we have many more examples like that. Besides these 3 examples, 3 cases, we have many commissioned cases related to some businessmen who are in prison now. The selective justice, nepotism, all the prosecutors in all the regions are the same. According to the law, we saw how the Sobolev's and Petrenko's initiative ended. We had to go to courts and to fight not to allow the former heads of the court to be elected again. The judges are not afraid of anything. They were somewhat scared, but today they realize that nothing is done to them. There's no law on lustration passed. The Ministry of the Interior is not investigating the cases. Not a single branch of the justice system is operating the way it should. And it's true about the old cases and new cases related to Maydan. What I would like to say, time has passed and we are not looking very attentively at these things. I would like to address people, I would like to address the civil society, that we need to take responsibility, we need to push, we need to require lustration, firing, cleaning of judicial system, of the Ministry of Interior and Prosecutor's Office. Every day we see such cases and people trying to do something, but they cannot achieve it, and the prosecutors feel safe, they are not punished. And of course, those people, like judges, you practically cannot dismiss a judge today. Why I talk about the law on renewal, the confidence to judges, because that was not a real, that was a fake submitted by Petrenko and Sobolev. Now the draft law 4570 is at the parliament. It's about the extensive lustration, but it's somewhere at the committees. No one is pushing that. No one is promoting it because no one needs it. I would like us to think again about that and to start working on that with the same energy as we were doing immediately after Maydan. We need to really implement total lustration. I would like to address Mr. Yarema and the ministers, Avakov, and also the Supreme Council of Justice, who doesn't answer any complaint, and not a single judge is punished for any case related to Maydan or for anything from the old times. Let us again remember, we need to take responsibility. We need to push the authorities so that they conduct lustration, because otherwise we will not change the system. We will not be able to fight on our own. We need the desire of all people. We need the whole community, the whole society to do it, and only then we'll be able to change something. Do you have any questions? No questions.
As far as the last case is concerned, have they conducted an independent medical checkup about the diagnoses? At the moment, they are trying to conduct independent medical examination. However, it's not been conducted yet. This is the example of the case where the victims are fighting for the result. The victim demands the investigation and prosecutor's office to take consecutive steps so that a person does not escape responsibility. The new prosecutor general a week ago has dismissed almost 1,500 judges. Judges? No, procurators. Prosecutors. Yes, those were prosecutors' offices, but this was very formal. The question is how they will be hired back. At the moment, we know that half of them are hired again. Let's see how many people he has dismissed and how many people he will take back. This is not the fact. We did not see replacements. So you think that this is very formal? Absolutely formal. Just for him to choose whom he can hire again or not. Let's see the results. The new prosecutors, not from those who took bribes and who were in cahoots with judges. Then we can talk about something. So far, I cannot give my personal assessment because the process has not ended yet. Let's hope that Yarema wants to change something in the prosecutor's office. Do you see this in the actions of the new prosecutor general? No, I haven't seen any cardinal changes. I know that we have filed a complaint to the General Prosecutor's Office about communists. The State Security Office does react, but the Prosecutor's Office, no. We have filed the application to ban the Communist Party and to recognize communist ideology as criminal ideology, but the Prosecutor's Office, instead of launching a criminal case, they just answer to us about the application from the public. However, we were not applying to them as the public. We just wanted them to launch a criminal case with certain surnames from the modern Communist Party. They are just substituting the notions. They were obliged to put this into the unified register of pre-court investigations. However, they just give us a formal answer as if we informed them as citizens. But this is not so. This is the usual practice of our judges. When they do not benefit from launching the case, they just consider it an appeal from citizens and give a very formal answer, reply. The same happened with the application from our Luhansk activists who applied to the Prosecutor General office with a clear-cut fact of embezzlement in coal industry, about self-made mines, and about what's happening in Donetsk and Luhansk, what they extract coal from their own self-made mines and then send to official mines. And this is a very clear fact to launch a criminal case, and we get a formal answer as if we just informed them as citizens. I will not put this aside. I will insist on launching the criminal case, but this is happening everywhere, and same with the police. As far as the court system is concerned, we now understand very clearly that if a complaint is filed, then within 24 hours the judge has to pass a decision. But what do? They on a very false pretext say that they have summoned the plaintiffs, and then they say that they have not arrived, and then move the date and time of the consideration. One of these days we have launched a application when we asked for a registered letter for which we were able to we were promising to appeal. So this is all selective justice and very corrupt prosecutor's office. I address our first persons, let's change this, and I ask people not to be at ease with in their struggle and to be as vigorous as they were right after Maydan, because the more we protract, the more they do illegal things. What about the parents of the man who died in the car accident? Are there any MPs who can help in this, who can ask a MP question? And maybe this will help more than just citizens' complaints. Just as Dmytro said, there are, yes, they answer letters from MPs that they are doing something, but what can be done in addition during 8 months in the case of a car accident, when the person was mowed down by a car, and there are recordings of this on video cameras and phones, and the general picture is established within 2 or 3 hours of the work of an investigator. But they just give us formal answers. Yes, we are conducting investigative actions. No one knows when this was held. As far as Yerema is concerned, yes, he's got the credit of trust from the society and the president. But what about the parents? Have they addressed Yerema? Yes, they have. And we are waiting for his answer. We got the answer from Makhnitsky, and this was not about anything. And the Kiev Prosecutor's office has written to us that they are conducting an investigation, and that's all. During the last meeting of activists of the Maydan with the president has clearly shown his attitude that he hopes very much, that he pins his hope on the new prosecutor general, that something will move, and I think that we have to give some time credit to Mr. Yerema so that he shows what's happening. If nothing happens, then the responsibility will lie on him, both as far as the society and the president are concerned, because this is a very serious political step that the president has taken when he appointed a person not from the prosecutor's system to this position, and if this person cannot do anything, then the conclusions of the presidents should be very serious. If the MPs could stand behind the investigator or prosecutor's officer, then of course there would have been a result. But they understand very well that if they imitate the activity, they understand that an MP does not have opportunity or time to follow this case. So within 2 or 3 weeks, this case vanishes, and they just send out formal answers. This is a very usual practice. For many, many years, our law enforcement bodies were just collecting money from the people. They were not working for the society. They were not working to raise the prestige of Ukraine and to engage in the distribution of justice. But of course, there should be some efforts from the public, because even during Yanukovych's time, when everything was under his control, there were some cases when the mass protest from citizens was able to influence court decisions and the work of law enforcement bodies. So maybe in this case, you should draw attention from the public.
Basically, that's what we are calling for. Talking about the Alexander Popov case, that's entrepreneur from Alexandria. We are now organizing pickets during each session of the court. We invite mass media, and because of that, the judge started to work on this process. She thought that Maydan is over and this case is not of interest because there are all these awful things happening in the country and they can quietly do what they planned. But thanks to the people who inform every time and people come to spend 2-3 hours in the court, that's ridiculous, but that's the only way, the only method that works. Other state institutions do not work and do not help. Unfortunately, we have to fight for each position, not legally, but by force. We are talking about the revolution of lumpen's. We will have it, and it's not people who are to be blamed. It's the government who doesn't want to do anything. Unfortunately, we have to fight for everything, and they hear only when there is this physical intervention. Like yesterday's case is a bright example. Only then they start fearing that, and otherwise there's no responsibility, there's no desire. And it would be great if we had not one person, not just the president, but many people, many civil servants who will try and start changing the system. It's about the draft law on lustration. I understand there are several draft laws which are in the parliament. One is taken as the basic, and it's at the committee. And now there's some initiative by Igor Sobolev, and they introduce another draft law. So what's happening? The draft law 45/7 is the law on wide lustration, and there are some opinions on how it should be drafted. But another draft by Yegor Sobolev of Voля Party is basically a PR campaign of Yegor Sobolev and of the party. Thank you for bringing attention to these serious problems and to the changes that are to take place, and see you again soon. Thank you.
Колеги, я нагадую, що наступні спікери круглий стіл о 14:30. Будемо говорити, як вирішити все-таки проблему війни і чи можна її вирішити